know what? I am sick of covering these dumb and stupid topics that just so happen to pop up on the daily basis. Oh, Sony's like, let's get rid of this. Steam's like, oh, let's, release an expensive console thingy-majig. It's only gonna get more expensive. I feel like I've been like the news, except the news comes like every week, and you know what? You're like, oh, I've already watched my Moist Critical YouTube video on this already. I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm like, you know what? I've been asking myself the same darn thing. I gotta be on the ground. I gotta be chasing these stores before they pop out. I can't be reactive. I gotta be active, schmactive, and most importantly, what's a word that rhymes with active? Imagine Dragons Radioactive by Imagine Dragons. How could you all do this to me? But no. This is a Jesse Levine classic right here. This time Jesse Levine's the first to this one. This is Jesse Levine original right here. No one's going to take away this one from me. You're going to be like, oh, we're eating good tonight as you rub your hands together, rub your big belly, smack it a couple of times. No, but this one's a good one. I promise you, this one's beautiful, delicious, and you're going to be screaming at the screen. Oh, wow, I learned something so extremely useful today. Hamburgers. Oh, me, oh my, oh, do I love me a hamburger. 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 Where do you get the best burger in Dark Souls? And so we have a couple of little areas that we're going to be looking at here. So first off, the asylum, right? That one ain't going to be good for a burger, right? One, it's prison food. And do you think prisons are even going to give you hamburgers? At the very least, in United States prisons, you're going to best get like a sloppy Joe or something. So basically, if you don't know what a sloppy Joe is, let me tell you like this. So imagine you have your hamburger bun, except it's a stupid bun. And now take your ground beef, but it's not in a patty form. It's kind of in a glumpus form, like kind of like a clump. Not like a glump. What am I even talking about? See, it's so bad that I'm even like forgetting exactly what it is. And you mix that ground beef that you already cooked in a thing full of sauce, smack it onto the bun, and boom, you got a sloppy Joe. And now in prison, you're not getting toppings. Obviously, you're not getting toppings. So obviously, the hamburgers in the asylum are disgusting. They are bad. Now, moving on to the next area here, we have Firelink Shrine. All right, we have a place where you could make a hamburger. You have a literal fire, and you know what? The firekeeper below the fire, I think she could probably make a good hamburger. Unfortunately, she's also in prison, which also means that she would be making sloppy joes just like in the asylum. The good thing is she's not in the asylum, so I imagine the sloppy joe is probably a wee bit of a higher tier than the one in the asylum. But I imagine being trapped in prison forever, you're probably not going to make the best sloppy joe in the world. You're probably just going to say, like, I'm starving, I need to eat. I think it would still be a better sloppy joe than the one in actual prison. Like, they don't care in actual prison. That's the thing. But a firekeeper, I think they'd care a lot more about the quality of their sloppy joes that they produce. But we haven't gotten to a hamburger. That's the big problem. We have no hamburgers yet. We need a hamburger now. And isn't Frampt also in Firelink Shrine? Frampt doesn't know what a hamburger is. You look at that guy, it's like, this is like some dinosaur-looking ass motherfucker. And you're like, do you think that guy can make a hamburger? I don't think that guy could even spell the word hamburger if you asked him to. Said, what in God's blazes is a hamburger? That's probably what Buddy's going to be saying. And then he's going to tell you, it's like, blah, 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 light the fire, da-da-da-da-da-da. So you see, Frampt's, like, mind's not focused on the pleasures of life. Frampt's focused on, like, man, business. And business can work for a hamburger, but not one filled with love. And you want a hamburger filled with so much love. Actually, who are the other guys in Firelink Shrine? There's the priest guy, but he's kind of an asshole. I don't like him, so you know what? He's not going to make a quality hamburger because you know what? I don't like him. And then Lautrec is in Firelink for like a little bit, but like, Buddy's not focused on hamburgers either. And then there's that one guy who goes down to New Londo. Like, no one's got their head in the game on dinner and burgers. They're all like, oh man, let's get a quick like to-go thing from like the grocery store or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, they're all boring. They just don't have any pizzazz. And now that I'm bringing up people cooking things, the asylum demon is the one who makes all the sloppy joes in the asylum. So, take that as you will. But let's change up the direction. We're not going right to Undeadburg. We're going to go straight to Rattleby Bonesville. I'm going to slap, like, Tomb of the Giants and whatever the thing between Tomb of the Giants is, because I forgot what it is. So basically, all of that is going to encompass Boneville. And so, do we think Boneville can actually put together a decent hamburger? Well, of course not. Everyone's skeletons. They don't eat food. But, you know, think about it like before. Actually, no, you can't think about before because it's like a giant tomb. Like, no one's making hamburgers in a giant tomb. You think Gravelord Nito was probably like, rev up those fires in the middle of like Actually, wait a second. There was a blacksmith down there. There was a blacksmith down there. You know what? Gravelord Nito could have revved up those fires, actually. I didn't even think about that for a moment. There used to be one down there. Oh, that's a big revelation. So someone had to rev up those fires for the blacksmith at the very least. And you know what? Gravelord Nito probably could put on an apron and say, kiss the bone. Gravelord Nito. Shame. Oh, man. Yeah, no. That Christmas party. But you know what? If there's a singular blacksmith down there, I imagine the hamburgers in Tomb of the Giants must have been pretty good for that blacksmith to still be there. Because, you know, blacksmith, was it a giant or was it like, I'm just going to say it was a guy. I'm going to just say guy to giant. But, like, you know, if you had to be down there for a while, there has to be some banging hamburgers to justify starting shop down there. No, I think Buddy was probably eating pretty good before, you know, he inevitably exploded and died and who's he what's it else would happen and everything went to poop. So, you know what? I think Gravelord Nito could probably do a solid burger. Now, the question is Gravelord Nito going to be big on the french fries here? How good are the sides that go with the burger here? You know, I imagine Gravelord Nito doesn't put butter on top of the bun and smack it on like a flat grill. I at least know that Buddy can make a medium rare burger, or the other thing is like smash burgers, but are the fries going to be crispy and salted? I'm going to say no. I don't think Gravelord Nito is also a condiment kind of person. Gravelord Nito is going to go off of the pure power of the bun, the juice from the hamburger, or it's like a smash burger, so it's going to be nice and crispy. Yeah, no, I think it'd be done well, but I don't think it really goes beyond that. You know, condiments, salt, fries, you know, I think that's where Gravelord Nito is probably going to struggle a lot more. And now we head to, nope, we're going to New Londo, baby. I ain't touching Undeadburg until I finally get through all these goop and glorps that are suddenly in my way. So, first off, Valley of Drakes, all the way over to that stupid little area with all of, like, the evil guys in there. I'm gonna be honest with you. Those skeleton guys, those drakes, that place is a whole pile of crap. You know, but the thing is, a place with a giant pile of crap means that there probably is a good burger place right there. It doesn't always mean that. This place is just an actual hellhole. Like, there ain't a solid burger there at all. Solid tacos? You know, I'll give you credit for that. But a burger? Nah. Wings? Actually, wings, probably, I'll give you wings. But we're looking at burgers here. I don't think there's going to be a good burger in Valley of the Drakes. And also, that area that's flooded with big evil guys who are like, I'm in the water and that'll... The Abyss is literally not a singular good hamburger. Like, Four Kings, do you think they know good food if they hit it on their face? I don't even think they would. Like, they wanted to become a giant weird abomination, and you know what? That probably means they don't have a good taste in food. I'm just gonna simply be honest with you. They probably like, can I get a bowl of oats down in the Abyss? And all there is oats everywhere, and everyone all knows that oats suck ass. Now, actual New Londo itself, you know, I think New Londo could actually do a solid hamburger, all things considered. You know, haven of humanity before it went to absolute poop, and there's ghosts everywhere. But I definitely think, at one point, they would have had a really solid hamburger. I probably think they would have had the best hamburger. And no, that's probably not true. They're probably going to charge you overpriced hamburger. Like, it's this giant city, you know? You're going to get an overpriced hamburger. Like, it'll be solid. Like, you know, they'll have more than Gravelord Nito. It'll be solidly done. They'll probably put butter on the buns and then condiments. But it's probably going to be something like $14. And checking about how inflation is, oh, it's probably still like an arm and a leg. I'm like, darn, like, this is probably like a solid place to go to lunch. But you're like, oh, you know, I don't really want to go to lunch in the city because it's like too expensive. So that's why you go get tacos from the Valley of the Drake. And you're like, oh, man, I really hope I don't get eaten by a giant drake. Shame, that's probably why New Londo went to shit in the first place. Everything got so expensive, everyone's like, I don't know where to eat. And it's like, I know a place. And then, you know, people say, yeah, you could just see the process right there. All right, now let's head to Undeadburg. Undeadburg? I think it's going to have a solid burger. I think for taste and price, you're going to get your best balance here. You know, they're probably going to have a solid burger. I don't think they're going to be doing smash burgers in Undeadburg. I think you're going to have a regular patty, maybe like, what's a solid ounce for like a patty? Oh, whatever like solid ounces are for patties, I forget. Oh, no, quarter pounder. They're probably doing a quarter pounder. Like, Dark Souls even affects me in real life. I completely forgot everything. I'm about to go feral. For some hamburgers and undead burger. You know what, all things considered, because I think the price is going to be a wee bit lower, the quality is not going to be as high up there. In my honest opinion, I think Undead Burger is probably going to be, like, just solid. It's going to be solid, but I feel like it's going to be missing on a couple of things that really, really bring the hamburger to, like, a high tier here. But you know what? Let's slap the Depths and Blighttown together. They're both a giant pile of crap and they're extremely dangerous, but. Now, this is the place where you're probably getting the best burger. It's the most dangerous. It has crazy people living in the sewer. It's got crazy people living in the town. But you know what that means when you got a lot of crazy danger? That means the food quality is going to be a lot higher right there. So I'm going to be honest. Wings, tacos, hamburgers. Oh, it's out the wazoo. And the price? Oh, you know, they got to attract people. That price is going to be low. That's a low price right there. So they're going to hit all the marks right there. And you're going to be like, ooh, that's a solid, delicious hamburger right there. I think the only caveat is you're going to be like, oh, man, I think I got too much food. And you're going to be like, man, I got to eat this over a couple of days. But you know what? A lot of food is good food. You know, that's not a caveat, actually. You know, that's for some people who are like, man, I don't actually want to finish my leftovers. For you who can't really go over their leftovers, I can understand to a degree, but you got to plan a little bit better. You know, that's the thing. Blighttown is not for the people who don't plan the meals right here. They probably even have loaded fries there, too, for probably like $3. Actually, probably more like $5. But you know what I'm saying. All right, now Quailags to me. Oh, Quailag. I'm going to be honest with you. Do you think a half spider person thingy, actually, well, mostly spider, would really understand a good quality hamburger? It's overdone. The burger's overdone. The juice is gone. They live in lava land. Of course the burger's overdone. It doesn't matter how many condiments and sauces you slap onto it. That thing's dry. Yeah, now Ash Lake's gonna be like your nice vacation spot, except the problem is there's a giant hydra there. So they haven't actually been able to set up a burger restaurant since '97. Now, the problem with it is they've tried figuring it out, but I'm just like, it's done. Like, they had a really solid beach place at one place, but it's like, I went there when I was younger, so I don't really know how it is anymore. I'll just have to give it a bit of a question mark. For those who know, I imagine you could probably give me a little bit more insight, but I'm just like, I was just way too young to just understand how good that place was. Sen's Fortress. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You're probably gonna get, like, stabbed on your way over to get a hamburger. And I don't even tell you that it's like someone's gonna stab you. You're probably gonna step the wrong way and get split in half right there. Sen's Fortress, it was not designed for ease of access. You know, I'd rather just eat food at home at that point. You know, I ain't traveling around Sen's Fortress. That place is just a death trap. But it's just an actual death trap. Do I have to do an Indiana Jones maneuver in order to get a hamburger? Oh, hell no. I don't care how good it is. You know, I like being alive to eat my hamburger. And you know what? I don't think I'm one of those people who just suddenly come back from the dead and I'm like, oh, it's time to get hamburger number 2. That ain't me, Pally. That ain't me. And Orlando. You know, back in the day, this used to be the big city. New Londo, they're like, oh, man, we jealous of Ann Orlando. Now, the problem is with this is super wealthy haven right here. So you know what? This is definitely the most expensive hamburger of all time. If you don't have 1 billion gold sitting in your pocket, do you think you're even going to purchase a hamburger? You're not even going to have clothes on your back by the time you actually finish eating in Ann Orlando. Plus, it's basically God Haven. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't think the gods really respect a solid hamburger. You know, they can understand a solid hot dog, but like, hamburger? You know, I like hot dog carts, but these hamburgers? These do not fit here. And remember in the lore when you look at Gwyn's funny weapon and it says, man, I really dislike everyone who sells hamburgers there. It's like, damn, it's just an absolute shame. Like, they had to make it like a very fine dining option for it to really be accepted there, which is quite disappointing. I had to steal one, and I'm like, okay, it's solid, but I'm like, it's kind of just like a slider at that point. It ain't that large. It's really tiny, and I'm like, I need like 50 of them to actually feel like, you know, satiated, so it's just a mess up there in Ann Orlando. Painted World, they don't even have ground beef in the Painted World. They ain't making a hamburger. Alrighty, then we got the Dark Root Garden and Basin. I'll tell you this, they can make you a mean salad, but do you think they're gonna be making hamburgers? No, they're basically all vegetarians. Like, there's walking mushrooms around here. They're gonna look at you and say, are you eating meat over there? and then just look at you with shame. And you know what? I don't want to be looked down upon with shame. You know what? I'll just go to Undeadburg for a hamburger at that point. You know, it's like just the judgmentalness of it all. Like, there is a hamburger place down there, but it's just, man, you just feel that just aura of just, man, I really shouldn't be going here. You know what? I'm just not gonna go to Darkroot Basin. And now we're nearing the end here. All right, Duke's Archives. It's a library. You're not eating hamburgers in the library. That's disgusting. Do you think Seath would put a hamburger restaurant in the Crystal Cave? No. Buddy looks like one of those naked cats. I don't think Buddy's going to be putting a hamburger restaurant in his cave. You know what? I'm not even going to address Demon Ruins. Demon Ruins are dumb. So Lost Izalith. You know, with all the half-naked butt dogs running around, you'd think that they probably would be big fans of hot dogs. Or, you know what? They probably wouldn't really know how to do a hamburger there. Quaylag's Domain, I could agree that the hamburger is overdone. Lost Izalith, there's a giant bug in charge of everything. And you know one thing about bugs? They're made out of protein. So Buddy understands the need and desire for protein. So this in lies the problem. The hamburgers are healthy down in Lost Izalith. And you know what? I can't just stand for that. That is unethical. It's gotta be filled with slop, goop, and glop. That is the definition of a hamburger. And you know what? I can't stand for that. So Lost Izalith is disqualified. And that leaves one last area. Gwyn's hometown, Kiln of the First Flame. You know, I would like to have ended on a more positive note, but I'm going to be honest. Do you think Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, was ever a big fan of hamburgers? He literally lives in the place where they have the tiny hamburgers. And I'm just so sorry to say this. Like, Buddy, this is where all the Black Knights from Dark Souls come from, but they ain't eating hamburgers. They ain't even eating hot dogs. Gwyn's probably like, we got you on a diet of fruits, berries, and most importantly, beef jerky. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, unfortunately said, everyone is going to be eating beef jerky. Also, we're going to become beef jerky. And it's just an absolute shame that that's what those guys had to be eating instead of juicy, delicious hamburgers. It's just, damn. And that's kind of the tragedy of Dark Souls, when you realize, with all the events that transpired, it's Gwyn's fault that not everyone can have a juicy, delicious hamburger. And everywhere that there were delicious hamburgers, they slowly just went to ruin because Gwyn, the selfish guy that he is, decided, you know what, humans are not going to have the most dominant restaurants around here. Instead, it's going to be Gwyn's Lord of Cinder salad bar, and most importantly, smoothie bowls. Absolute shame. If Buddy just simply accepted that the world was fading, you know, we probably would have the best hamburger to ever existed. Instead, we have walking, talking, not really talking, beef jerky that sits in a giant oven.